ASMR True Crime channel. Today we're looking at a case so terrifying it will make you think twice about your social media. When Mercedes Morr rose through the ranks of social media, she never expected to be at the mercy of a deranged killer. And as you can likely guess, this story doesn't end well for her. After gaining strong popularity in the nightclubs, Mercedes Morr rose to online fame with more than 2.6 million followers on Instagram and was often seen partying with high-ranking celebrities such as Drake, Travis Scott, and Offset. As her fortune and success flourished, she doubled her modeling empire by joining the world of OnlyFans, rapidly accelerating the demand for her content from her audience. Things were going extremely well for the young model, and she even had plans to expand beyond her modeling by introducing her own clothing line. But tragically, her success would shatter in an instant when an online stalker set out to do the unthinkable, leaving the world reeling with shock and anger, and influencers terrified for their own safety. But what happened exactly to Mercedes Morr? What were the motives behind the stalker's terrible actions, and what can we take away from this tragedy to prevent it from happening again? It started in LA. With a city this famous, there is no need for formal introductions. LA truly is a league of its own. In addition to its almost 4 million resident population, many famous actors and models choose to call this place home, thanks to its extraordinary entertainment industry. But surprisingly, LA has a dark side too. Homicides in the city happen at an alarming rate, and the LA Times alone has recorded a shocking 598 murders in the last year alone. Mass shootings have happened no long ago. This includes the Beverly Crest shooting, which happened earlier this year, leaving 3 innocent people dead after gunmen shot all 4 other targets in an alleged gang attack. The targets escaped with their lives, leaving this tragedy resting solely on 3 innocent bystanders. The county of Los Angeles sees plenty of disasters too. Dozens of floods, dam breaks, earthquakes, wildfires, and even airline disasters have left thousands dead over the decades. Saying that, with a city as popular and busy as this one, fatalities are somewhat unavoidable. A final interesting fact before we get to our story today. But did you know that there is an underground labyrinth of tunnels right under the city? Now, there are some extremely creepy stories about these tunnels. Some say that mafia mobsters used to use these tunnels to store dead bodies, while others say the police used them as a hideout to transport prisoners and large amount of money. Over the decades, most of these tunnels are now officially closed off, but if you ask me, that makes them all the more intriguing. Anyway, it is here in the bustling city that we found Janae Gardner and her family, born on November 25th in 1987 to her father Mark and her mother Janessa. Janae grew up in the Los Angeles area alongside her sisters. As for her own mother and father, Mark and Janae had spent some of their younger adult years in the military, leaving their service to focus on opening their own restaurant shortly after marrying. Moving into her childhood and even from a younger age, Janae was very feminine, business-focused, and intelligent. It is reported that at the age of 12, she braided other people's hair in the family garage for money, clearly loving both fashion and money, so to speak. Now, sadly, her parents would divorce when she was just a child, leaving Janae and her sisters to frequently travel interstate between between her separated parents' homes, with one remaining in California while the other moved back to Texas. The breakup understandably caused many issues within the family, and Janae was known to sometimes act out against her mother and her father. This created problems at high school too, and Janae often got caught up in drama with the other girls, though saying that this wasn't exactly a surprise amongst teenagers. After graduating from high school, Janae eventually joined college to become a dental assistant. However, shortly after beginning a course, she dropped out to move with her boyfriend in Las Vegas. After arriving in Sin City, she took a job as a professional dancer in a strip club, adopting the name of Mercedes Morr. Mercedes stood for luxury, and Morr meant that she always wanted more. Now her parents were understandably concerned by the rather sharp change in her career path, and this became ongoing difficult conversation in the family. But as the time passed by, those conversations, once filled with worry, became ones filled with pleasant surprise. You see, Janae was now making up to $5,000 every single weekend, and it's clear to see that whatever she was doing it very, very well. And with that said, Janae's parents settled with her new direction in life. Although Janae was now in the strip club industry, this is not where she wanted to stay. And being the intelligent businesswoman that she was, she began to use the industry and its network as a way to grow her social media. Soon enough, Janae rapidly rose in popularity on Snapchat, Twitter, and Instagram, until suddenly her Instagram, in particular, began to rocket. And Janae, now better known as Mercedes, found herself hanging out with celebrities like Travis Scott, Offset, and Drake. This would further propel her fame in the industry. Janae eventually stopped dancing altogether, pivoting over to modeling and partying. And this included modeling on OnlyFans. That's a subscription-based social media platform where users can sell a variety of content of themselves to others for a monthly fee. And as you may or may not have already guessed, this is often in the form of explicit content. In addition to this, Janae had plans to launch her own products off the success of her various social media platforms, planning to sell her own branded sportswear and hair extensions. As you can tell, she was a very smart and resourceful young woman. Mercedes has risen to the top of her game with more than 2 million followers on Instagram, which undeniably is an extremely high achievement in the social media sphere. Although Janae found a lot of interests from men, many of those who started dating her wouldn't stick around for long. None of them were comfortable with her work and often asked her to stop modeling or even quit OnlyFans altogether. Thankfully, she eventually found someone who was happy to commit to her in the long term, regardless of the industry she was in. In fact, by the summer of 2021, she had even begun to make plans to move in with a boyfriend. By the way, it wasn't usual for Janae to speak about marriage or children regarding the man she was dating, but her family realized that things seemed to be going in the right direction with this new guy. But tragically, and unrelated to her boyfriend, things changed in an instant. Working as part of the industry she was in, Janae found herself at the mercy of some very serious security concerns. Being a model brings a lot of attention, and some of it is extremely unfavorable. In fact, Janae had already been dosed 4 years prior by a previous fan who leaked her address online. And I'm sure you can think of several nightmare stories that include doxing with the internet filled with people who don't know how to exercise healthy boundaries or in fact boundaries at all. Janae no longer felt comfortable in her own home and moved shortly after this, and although though she didn't care too much about verbal harassment or any of the mean comments online, she was very paranoid about her safety and was terrified of being stalked. For this reason, she was extremely careful with what she posted online and even moved to a gated community in Houston named Cortland Sugarland. Cortland Sugarland Apartments, found southwest of Houston City Center, is a gated community with moderate security and a few fast food restaurants. And honestly, it doesn't look too bad. But understandably, this still was not enough for Janae. Following multiple doxes from previous addresses and countless experiences with stalkers online, Janae tried to be very careful with what she posted online. Sadly though, she had unknowingly allowed several small details to slip, including her front door. Now it's kind of obvious to say this, but fame comes with exposure, and the more eyes on Janae, the more possibility of encounters, both good and bad. Several things can be done to improve the security of your own home, including gated communities, security alarms, and camera systems, or even living in an apartment instead of a house. But sadly, despite actually following most of these protocols, horror would still manage to find Janae. August 29th in 2021, Janae's father Mark had just returned from a fishing trip when he received a worrying phone call from one of his other daughters in London. The family had become aware that Janae hadn't been in contact for several days now, which was odd, given that Janae was very close to her family. Furthermore, she was extremely close with her father and would regularly call him to check in on him. The silence extended past to the family too, as nobody else had heard from her in the last 3 days. To add to this, she had also failed to post on her social media, and so given how wildly out of character this was, something had to be wrong. To make matters even worse, Mark realized that the last time he'd spoken to Janae was more than 10 days ago, on August 17th. During this phone call, she had asked her father if he could stay with her for a while. Her boyfriend was out of town. Now, this was understandable considering all of her negative past experiences. Janae was still inherently scared to live alone. With growing concern, Mark traveled over to her Cortland Sugarland home. With no answer at the door, but her BMW visible from the garage, Mark made the decision to kick the front door. Sadly, as soon as he did, he was met a wave of shock and grief. At the bottom of the stairway, he found the lifeless body of his daughter. Her leg was bent behind her body, and her clothes were torn. Blood was found throughout the property in the form of droplets and in some places puddles. And exploring other rooms in the home would sadly make the reality even worse. After looking upstairs, Mark found an unrecognizable man clinging to his life on the floor. He had a knife in his chest, which appeared to be self-inflicted. Looking up at the walls, doors and mirrors added another layer of horror to the already unfolding nightmare. This man, who named himself as Kevin Aorto, had left dozens of notes written in lipstick or pens. One note read, "I wish I never loved her." Another said, "I should have stayed in Florida." Found on another wall, Kevin wrote, "I was used for money." And on the door nearby, Kevin wrote, "Sorry to the landlord and the community. I heard a lot." Another wrote, "Janae led me to think she cared about me, but wore another man's ring." This message indicating another clear and strong motive behind the crime. Shortly after reading the words on the wall, Mark looked down to see Kevin pass away, staying alive just long enough to hear Janae's father scream, "What did you do?" Responding officers would declare Kevin's death on arrival, making Mark's distraught face the last one he would ever see. Janae's family were devastated by the news, and sadly the internet would rub salt in their wounds when her case became shrouded with misinformation. Rumors spread claiming that Mercedes Morr had died from COVID-19, AIDS, rock dancers in the industry, and even a violent sugar daddy. Now, I have watched literally dozens of videos posted in the days after Mercedes' death, and honestly, the internet was not kind to her. When the authorities published the actual news, ridiculous rumors turned into heated discussions over her job and even blamed her for the industry she was in. And although one of Janae's sisters had alluded that Kevin had been stalking her for a while, we don't actually know how long for. It's believed that Janae had no idea who Kevin was and that the relationship was entirely parasocial. For those who don't know, parasocial relationships are essentially one-sided relationships, a relationship where one person extends emotional energy, interest, and time to the other, who is simultaneously completely unaware of their existence. Now, according to news reporters, we learned information that the 33-year-old social media model was strangled to death, and the police are now trying to figure out a timeline of when this all may have happened. Police also shared that they have not seen any signs of forced entry to the apartment. Now, not much is known about Kevin, probably because he's a loser that deserves no recognition at all, but from what we know, he was born in 1987, making him 34 when he murdered Janae. Although he lived in Florida, he traveled to Texas on the sole mission of tracking her down. Kevin had no substantial criminal record prior to this incident, with traffic violations being the only mark on his otherwise spotless record. An autopsy performed by the Fort Bend County Medical Examiner's Office determined that Janae's death was a homicide and the cause of her death was strangulation and traumatic concussion. After murdering Janae, Kevin remained in the property for 2 to 3 days, and as soon as he heard the front door being kicked down, he successfully took his own life with multiple sharp forced traumatic wounds. Detectives working on the scene found that there was no sign of forced entry, meaning it is currently unclear how Kevin made his way into the property. Janae's apartment was on the second floor and had only one way up, which was via the staircase. This means it is most likely that Kevin would have had to knock at the front door or garage to gain entry. Data forensics would conclude that Janae did not know who Kevin was, and there was no reason to believe they had any form of two-way relationship or even friendship prior to the day that she was murdered. This part of the investigation was apparently very extensive, with authorities citing having to go through hundreds of profiles owned by Janae. Understandably, Janae's family, friends, fans, and viewers were devastated by the news. Janae was usually the life of the party, and with her absence being so abrupt, many didn't know how to handle their grief. Janae's death stunned those at the top too, with Drake and many others leaving tributes to their much-loved friend. Fernandez posted online to say, "Rest in peace, Queen," and Drake would later go on to tribute his entire album named Certified Lover Boy to both Janae and one more other victim of violence. The false rumors stirred up to other celebrities too, with Cardi B herself lashing out at those spreading hate. In the midst of all of this were her family, both distraught and angered at Kevin and the wider internet community. With the ongoing investigation, how was Janae tracked down? It isn't yet understood how Kevin managed to track Janae down, but there are several credible theories. You see, Janae charged fans for access to premium content of her OnlyFans, and this gave them the opportunity to send her money and gifts in the post. This part is not confirmed, but it is currently believed that instead of setting up saying that there are other, more time-consuming ways that Kevin may have found her address. If Janae never used a P.O. box to set up her business, then she may have used her own address instead. Sometimes these business addresses slip into the public domain, frequently attending places and then posting about them online may have been another way for Kevin to eventually track her down. As mentioned before, details in her photos such as front door or the estate swimming pool could be used to verify her location through Google Maps or Street View. Of course, all of these possibilities are mere theories in Janae's case and nothing more. Highlighting these issues is intended to make you think twice about what you post online and how others could possibly track you down. Now, although I would normally talk about the legal consequences of this case, there sadly aren't any for this video. Kevin Accordo clearly was a coward, and with him now being dead, he was taking all legal justice with him to the grave. With this happening in the state of Texas, he would have likely faced life imprisonment, and although we will never know what he was thinking or feeling in his final moments before he died, we can only hope it was extreme regret and pain while he looked up at Janae's distraught father. Enough about Kevin though. The real victim of this tragedy here is of course Janae. Janae was at the very beginning of an explosive career, and whether you agree with her role in the OnlyFans industry as a whole or not, it is undeniable that she was incredibly smart in how she conducted and grew her multiple businesses and as an entertainer and a model. Janae faced the difficult task of being warm and inviting to fans while simultaneously positioning herself at a safe distance away from them. This duty in its own right can have an extremely delicate balance, and that changes daily and is a nightmare for many influencers across the globe. Janae's sisters now lives in fear and tries to avoid large crowds. Her father still feels the pain of not being there for his daughter. The two always had a strong bond, so much so that they lived only 1 mile apart. Janae was described as so loving and had such a kind spirit, and although she was Mercedes Morr to so many, she was Janae Gagnon to her family and loved ones, all of whom miss her dearly. To quote her mother Janetta, the family struggled with tremendous loss. She was so famous in her world and so loved in ours. Her family remembers her as kind, protective, funny, goofy, and always a good time to be around. Janae's father recalled how he used to warn her. Janae, you have all these followers, some probably because they love you, some because they like your look, and some more crazy, and some obsessed. And in the end, those worries would sadly become a terribly dark reality. Janae's keeping safe online case is enough to leave anyone feeling uncomfortable about their safety online. Now the question to you is, are you doing enough to ensure your privacy? Now there are several things you can do to keep yourself safe, and I would like for you to think about them. Posting pictures of yourself in a public place after you left the area is a good start, but if it's somewhere that you frequently visit, then consider never posting pictures there at all. Saying that, if you would like to be close and personal with your friends online, then consider posting them on a locked account somewhere where it is not possible for strangers to pry. Be vague with where you live. Never be more specific than a large city or county. Never post outside directly next to or even near your home. And avoid connecting your location with objects that can lead back to you. This includes things such as a license plate of a car, a uniquely named shop, or even your workplace. Now it would hammer on much longer, but the point I'm trying to make here is you to be careful with what you post online. Honestly, you have to protect yourself. It really is important. Janae tried her absolute best to keep herself and her family safe and secure, but sadly, in a world so hyper-connected, that sense of privacy seems to be forever dwindling. So this was the case for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more content.